Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest webinar from the Training and Manufacturing Group. My name's Neil Lloyd, and I'm the chair of the TMG, and today I'm joined by Mark Sykes from BDO. Afternoon, Mark.
Hi Neil.
Before Mark talks us through his topic of the day, which is about building resilience, I'm just going to take a moment just to remind everybody who the TMG are and who our technical partners are who sit alongside BDO. So I'll just share my screen here. So for those of you not familiar who the Training and Manufacturing Group are, we are a consortium of like-minded individuals and businesses, and our vision is to deliver those world-class advanced engineering skills and business support strategies through hyper-local collaboration. We're a not-for-profit organisation, and we purely exist for the benefit of our members. These are our technical partners, so these are the businesses that we work most with and who provide support to the 150, 160 members that are in the group. So you can see BDO there providing accounting and financial advice, ourselves at FBC Mumby Bowdler providing legal advice, and then Boramat for robotics, Hexagon for metrology, engineering technology group, in terms of machinery, Goering for cutting, and Incom for the training and business services that they provide into the members. These are some of the benefits from being a member. So you do get regular content and information from the partners. When we can attend briefings together, then attend briefings. Otherwise, we're providing these webinars. Full legal review of your business, discounts on more than 100 courses, access to grants, and probably the last one, access to prototyping capability that's provided through the likes of Engineering Technology Group. So that's all from me. I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to talk us through about building resilience. You do have the option of asking Mark questions if you just use the chat function or the Q&A function at the bottom, and we can throw those at him at the end. Mark, over to you.
Lovely, thanks Neil, and hello everyone. It's always very strange, isn't it, when we do these meetings, because you can't actually see the people you're talking to, and we were just saying before that, you know, this new normal, if that's what we're going to quote it, is slightly unusual times. I'm going to take us through some slides, and that's the content that's in there has been built from basically as we've gone through the whole of this COVID cycle to date, talking to lots of businesses and lots of clients and finding out what they're doing and how they're dealing with the change. And on the back of that, we've developed an approach that we're using to understand the different stages of change, which I'll quickly go through, and then pulling out some of the key trends. So I hope it provides some insight to yourselves and some things to look at and thought-provoking ideas. But I'll just share screen now. And hopefully that's now come up, and you've got a picture there saying building a resilient future. So, so as it says, my name's Mark Sykes, partner at BDO, work with a wide range of businesses, predominantly SME businesses is my focus, and a good number of manufacturing businesses are within my client base. And let me just click through. The first thing to say is that I always find with manufacturing, it's one of those areas where you talk to someone with a perception of what the issues are, and the reality is they turn around and say, well, actually that doesn't apply to me. And that's because we need to remember that manufacturing is a wide church, and that's exactly what this is showing. So this is in our Future of the UK Manufacturing Sector report, which is available, has been shared out through social, and we can share onwards later on. But what you can see there is different parts of the manufacturing sector have had different levels of impact from COVID and the current economic climate. And there's not really any rocket science in this. You know, top of the line businesses performing well are those involved in producing medical related products. And bottom of the pile are people involved in transport. I kind of suspect that must exclude bicycles. I was talking to a friend last night, and the ability to get bikes, if you make bikes at the moment, you must be just printing money, because I think everyone wanted some form of fitness device as we went through lockdown. So you still can't get bikes for love nor money. But you can see there different parts of the manufacturing sector impacted differently. The general trend, with a few exceptions, is that it's been bad news, and the degree, the speed at which different sectors are going to come out of lockdown is very different based on what they're doing. And that creates that chart on the right, which says, look, there are some bits of the manufacturing sector which are resilient in this world. Pharmaceuticals wins the prize. But there are some sectors that are really endangered, and it's not just because of COVID, but we've also got that dreaded B word in the background. And we all know that in the kind of motor vehicle manufacturer space, the impact of tariffs, subject to where we get to, could basically not only knock any profit margin, but push those businesses into a loss-making situation for any cars that they're trying to sell into the European market. So we've got a number of threatened areas within manufacturing. Having said that, my experience has been that when we've gone and talked to manufacturing businesses, they have been one of the few sectors that they didn't have the choice but to keep going. So when other people were able to decant to their homes and work remotely, the factories kept going, production lines kept on producing things, and they had to very, very quickly adapt. And when we asked the question about, how have you adapted, how you're operating, it was the manufacturing sector that had the most ideas of how to operate and keep operating in a post-COVID world. So just remembering that we've got a wide spectrum of organisations within the manufacturing sector, and it's just thinking that through. So I talked about our model, and our model really said, look, if we all remember lockdown, and probably every business under the sun got a plethora of furlough flyers or COVID spam, or whatever you want to call it, where we all tried to do the right thing, so let's acknowledge that, but we were very quick at firing out, oh look, the government's just announced this and this is what you can do, and the government's just done that and you can do this. And almost certainly that guidance was out of date within 24 hours because the government revised their guidance and changed their rules and things. At the same time, in the manufacturing space, what we saw was people reacting very, very quickly to the situation. Right, I need to shut my factory. Right, I need to do this. Right, I need to. And actually, a lot of businesses did that very well. I did see some disasters. So I saw someone shut a factory and open it 2 days later. I can only imagine what that did for morale in the workforce. But the reality is that's reacting. And it's really important to recognise when people are reacting to the situation, as compared to we are now in this limbo situation where there is still a virus at large. We can't quite do what we want to. We are in this resilience phase, and some organisations are already there, but we will all get there eventually. We will come to a realise phase, and the difference between them, react is just dealing with the emergency, locking things down, making sure we've actually protected the staff was the number one thing. So protecting the people, protecting the core of the business, and thinking about how to reduce operations through whatever situation. That's react. Resilience is we are in this world now, we need to additional procedures in place, a bit harder to get goods from certain locations because there are less planes flying over or whatever. Yeah, we're in that sustain and keep going phase. And then at some point, there are going to be some brilliant ideas coming out and things we've learned, and that will be that realise phase. And we call this the Rethink Model because we sincerely believe that ultimately the resilience of any business is going to come from every organisation looking back at what they do and rethinking what is important, what their markets are wanting, where they add value to their clients, and how they do things. And we do believe that actually a lot of businesses will come out better and stronger if they do that rethink process. So that's what, as a firm, we have been working on and how we are working with our clients. So unpacking that with the view of resilience in mind, we talked about the react. So how do we keep a business going? How do we come out of this strong? The react things were the ones that you've done. So it's the quickly go and get any funds, defer your VAT, go and get your CBILS loan, things like that. Identify the funds you can, get that government support, reduce the headcount, any avoidable costs, just get it terminated, mothball any non-viable business units, divert production to those things that are able to generate cash, and basically keep close to your customers and your supply chain. All right, that's all the React stuff. That is not the stuff that I'm talking about now when I talk about that longer term resilience, but you will probably recognize that behavior. And it's important to see that was a thing that took place. Resilience, and that's where most businesses are today. And I've got a list here, which is kind of the key things to think about to keep going. But I'm going to come on to something in the next slide, which I'm going to challenge that a little bit. But fundamentally, what we're seeing is a real need for data-driven decision making. Okay, and that's businesses are saying we just need more data to make the right decisions. In the React phase, the businesses had to make a decision quickly. The decision makers are absolutely fatigued at the moment because they have had to make so many decisions so quickly. Now we're at a point of saying, I want to make the right decisions, and I therefore want fact. I want information. I want data to actually drive those decisions. But from that data, basically, it's businesses now really looking at which of their product lines, production lines might be at end of life. And actually, we just need to accelerate that up now and just stop doing those things. So the cash cows might have quickly become dogs overnight, and we need to stop those. Downsizing the org structure. So very easy to quickly say, we're not producing that thing. Let's furlough the staff for not producing that thing. The harder bit is, what about the tiers above? What about the actual org structure? And is it still fit for purpose in the new way of working? So talk about downsizing. As I said, I'm going to come on to a slightly different view on that in a second. Insourcing, you might have capacity. Stuff in the past you've said, that's not core to what I do. Let's pass that through my supply chain and get someone else to do it. Well, maybe now you've got capacity if you're not operating the way you used to, and you can bring some of that back in and use your capacity to generate more profit for the business rather than passing it out to other people. Supply chain, and this is very old school, but this is the consolidated supply chain. You know, you've got 3 suppliers, maybe you only need 1 supplier and you can get a better price by consolidating it. Definitely going to take issue with that one. And the next one is cost optimization. And this one is coming, I just had an email in this morning from a manufacturing business. What can we do to drive down that break-even point? So I'm going to be operating at a lower level of operation for a period of time. The only thing I can therefore do is now take down my break-even point so I am able to generate cash at that lower level of revenue. So going through and revisiting everything from energy costs through to the way that you know, the cost of space cost and things like that. So resilience, kind of, that's the traditional and probably a good starting point for businesses to look at. And then we come to the realize phase, and this is the bit I find more exciting actually. Where are we thinking differently? So if I'm thinking differently, I really hope that the businesses out there are saying, we've learned new things. We can actually modify our product and use it in this new market. We've got services we can add on because people are needing this help. So actually that development of new features or new products, or finding the way that your existing products could be used in new applications, is absolutely critical to driving that volume back up. And I hope people have got their brains working. And the challenge though is making sure you're not doing that in a react state. Because you might be saying, oh, there's loads of opportunity to produce PPE now. It's a massive market. We're not going to get those little kinds of plastic tumblers that we can now go and get our coffee from Starbucks from. Those days are gone, and Christmas will be giving out to all our clients a face mask with our logo printed on. That would be React for me, because that's just a feature of where we are today. I really hope that will not be where we are in a few years' time. And so we're trying to think about it's how you develop new products and services that are the new world, not products and services that are just about keeping going. Those are in the resilience phase. But thinking about, what have I learned? What productivity gains have come? A lot of manufacturing businesses have said, it's interesting, when we furloughed our teams, our productivity went up. And that's quite interesting, just to think through, hang on a sec, what actually took place there? Was it that actually the staff furloughed were those that maybe didn't contribute as much as the others, so it looked like the productivity went up? Is it that people were just working stupid hours because they were worried and they were concerned about their personal position, so it wasn't a sustainable position? Or was it actually that as people took a proper look at what was essential and what wasn't essential, we actually did the exercise that the UK has been needing to do for a while and thought about where we can really drive productivity in our organisations? So a lot reported productivity gains, not a lot can give convincing answers at the moment as to why, but that is definitely an area to look at where you made productivity gains and build those in. Accessing new markets. I was on a call this morning with Australia. I've got a call tonight with the US, and that is just as easy as talking to someone who lives 2 miles down the road in this weird world. So actually there are new markets where we can actually engage, and the markets are more receptive to engaging this way rather than having to jump on a plane and go out for a week and take a lot longer. So there's real opportunity to be much quicker at going to market. That doesn't help getting the goods to the country, but then that might be where changing your business model and thinking about fulfillment and letting someone else who's an expert in logistics do that piece. You just need to actually get the deals and work in that market and get the products fit for that market. Manufacturing 4.0 is right at the top of the agenda. So if you manufacturing, you haven't been engaged with that, I don't know where you've been, but fundamentally that is absolutely where people are going. So more and more of the businesses talk to us saying, can we just automate our packaging now? Can we just automate our picking? Can we just, everything's going down that route. And again, Internet of Things, the idea that I can't go out and maintain lifts as I used to, because that's a lot of people going out on sites that might be difficult to get to. Maybe if I start to use a little bit of digital technology to tell me if there's a problem, that might be actually better. So building Internet of Things into things like your maintenance processes or your products so that you can actually drive efficiencies, drive insights, that's going to come to the forefront if it hasn't done already. Lessons learned, this is an interesting one. If you ever say to a business, what did you learn from your React phase? A lot of businesses, I hate to say, are still saying, I don't know. So we all like to look forwards. That's where our eyes are. But it's really important to think back to what happened at React, what was good, but what was bad, and then making sure you don't repeat the bad, but you are prepared to repeat the good. And so look back at the lessons you've learned. And then upskilling teams. And that really kind of takes me on to the next slide. So that's kind of resilience, and that's the kind of formal, how you get yourself through it and what you should be doing in terms of longer term resilience. Right. Good business is good business. And the bottom line is that if you have a good business, you've probably already proven yourself many times over at your ability to change and adapt and think differently and find new ways, whatever the world throws at you. And the world's throwing you on absolute blinder here. So, but you know, manufacturing, my experience has been they have done a fantastic job of rethinking what they're doing. Going to that resilience point, and I think the bit is actually, is it resilience or is it actually about, or is it rationalizing? And some of the things I mentioned on the previous slide were about rationalizing. So supply chain, conventional theory is, right, take 3 suppliers down to 1 supplier and nail them on price. That isn't the language which businesses are talking at the moment. Businesses are saying what we've learned this time is our supply chain was so critical to us. What we really want is resilience in our supply chain. And even small businesses have demonstrated absolute maturity in saying, I've got to look after my suppliers. So I've got more cash than they have. Do I forward order products to give them a little bit of certainty? Because I need to know my supply will be there in a year's time. So that's a slightly different way of thinking. So some of the big players flood their supply chain to make sure that they will be there in a year's time. But the smaller players as well, just respecting payment terms so that you're not taking the mickey. So old school is stretch your supply chain, absolutely get as much out as possible. What we're seeing at the moment is a lot more focus on the resilience of your supply chain because that was what was hit this time round. And that's so in building those resilient supply chains, that could lead to conversations like, actually, I've historically outsourced to far off locations. Maybe I need a nearshore option in terms of where I buy goods in from. Maybe I just need to make sure I've got more than 1 supplier. So if there's a problem, I can find it somewhere else. Maybe I actually need some data on my supply chain that I'm tracking to make sure I know if someone's struggling and so forth. Supply chain, loads of times comes up. Data-driven decisions I've talked about a little bit, but it's absolutely clear business owners want data. They've done the React, they now want data to drive the next decisions. And that becomes a real big focus area. Redesigning the way the business operates. So one manufacturing business said to me, we obviously furloughed a lot of our team and dealt with that. We've also adapted how we work. So lots of the office is now working remotely. So the factory is still operating, but we have a lot of our support team remote. And it just made us think, how many things do we do today which we only do because we've always done it that way? And it became really clear that if we can make those changes really quickly, should we just go back through everything we've done and just revisit it and say, oh, are we doing that because it's the right thing, or are we doing it because we've always done it? So they talked about inertia. And I love that example. So actually just go back through everything. Why are you doing that? Why do you keep doing those things? Why do you operate in that way? And so we're seeing a lot of businesses taking this as an opportunity to now redesign the way they operate. And then decision memory, I mentioned it before. It's this idea of, it's not just the decisions you made, but actually revisiting them to see if they were good or bad. That's going to create agility and help you make better decisions going forward. So, and being honest about where you made mistakes. We all made mistakes through this process, but learning from them is the key thing. That then just pings over to the other side. So I need to move the little window here because I can't see it. So then we come through to realizing growth. So that's resilience, but I don't think we're all in business to just keep going. We're in business because we want to grow it, we want to succeed, don't we? So over to the other side, thinking about future-proofing the strategy. So having a look at the opportunities and threats that come from this disrupted world we're in. And that's not just, all right, I can produce PPE. That's actually saying, do you know what, demographics might have shifted. People might be buying differently. People might want different types of things now. Life value decisions have shifted. You know, people might be commuting a lot less and so forth. It's different. Our supply chains got disrupted. I want to buy nearer shore. I don't want to buy from so far away because it just wasn't reliable and so forth. That is actually all opportunity. Okay, it's a threat as well, by the way. So looking at those and taking time to just look back. Don't assume because you've got something today, you've got it tomorrow. The disruption has happened. It might just take a bit of time for someone to actually make the changes, but you need to be prepared to seize the opportunities, but you also need to just protect what you've currently got and just ask the question, is it going to be there in a few years' time? Skills, absolutely critical. This is people starting to say, what are the right skills for the future? We kind of know a lot of them, if we're honest. It's people that are really sharp on project management, people that have digital skills and so forth are critical. But it's now that you should be looking and saying, do I have the right skills to achieve my plans for the future? Not just, I've got my staff, I furloughed them, I brought them back. Even the government's announcements talked about when you're bringing people back, repurposing them for what you're going to need to do in the future. So you will be operating differently. It's a really good time to think about the skills you want and then assess whether that's going to come from the team being retrained, or actually do you need to go and recruit a different type of skill set. So it's not just about, oh, I need to reduce my costs, my staff base down, or I need to rationalize what I'm doing. I really think businesses need to be actually doing the exercise of identifying the skills that they need for the future. Scenario planning, not everyone subscribes to this, but I think the biggest benefit from scenario planning, thinking of those multiple scenarios, is it going to be a digital world? Are we going to keep on working remotely, or is 20% of the population going to be working remotely in the future? Are we going to stop driving cars now or have one car per family because we don't need to anymore, and so forth? Working through those scenarios and what that might mean for your business is really important. But I think the most important point is what we don't actually know, do we? Let's cut through it. We don't know if an antidote will come or anything like that. But by doing the exercise, you will work out your strain points in your organization where you might be less agile. So the exercise itself is a good one. But if you get it right, that's fantastic. But it's testing how you make those decisions. And an observation there is, I would say a lot of people made quick decisions in lockdown. A lot of businesses haven't regrouped their decision-making process, actually, to say they've kind of got into the habit of keep making decisions quickly with a smaller group. And the reason you had a wider board, and the reason that people invest in businesses that have the right skills at board level, is because you do need that diversity of thought. And so I would just say, if you've kind of narrowed your decision-making processes to cope with the crisis, make sure you do expand it back out again and bring in either advice from outside or advice from your non-execs or advice from your peers to start making the right decisions. We know categorically that one of the top 5 reasons for success, most successful businesses have that external or wider board to help them with decision making. And then digital. Okay, it is going to be a digital world. I'll put money on that one. And therefore, you will need digital skills. You will need to be embracing manufacturing 4.0. You will need to be thinking about Internet of Things. You will need to be thinking through actually your routes to market in a digital world. Okay, so if you haven't got those things in your plan of focus at the moment, you are going to struggle. If you are absolutely embracing those, then that will help you get that resilience and help you move forward. I think that covers the points I was going to cover off in the time I was allotted. I hope Neil didn't go on too long there. But,
fantastic, thank you.
Okay.
Just a reminder that you can ask Mark any questions just by using the chat function or the question and answers at the bottom. Got a question come through, Mark, in terms of how do you, you talked about the B word and Brexit. How do you see that impacting manufacturers? What are your clients saying to you at the moment?
Yeah, okay. So it is the B word, isn't it? The observations on that, I mean, I think one thing is, let's just acknowledge that we're worrying about the grenade over here and the nuclear bomb went off, which ended up being the COVID word. So COVID's probably had a bigger impact than Brexit, and people, hopefully, who are on this have made it through that bit so far. So let's slightly keep it in proportion, but at the same time, that's not to dismiss it. I think all the forecasts anticipate that it's not a good thing for the economy longer term. So again, we've just got to brace ourselves that it's likely we're going to have a slow growth, poor growth type economy for a period of time. I think that's all the predictions. But I do always come back to a good business is a good business, and a good management team is a good management team. And if you are agile, if you are able to adapt and make decisions quick, you'll be all right. I've done a number of workshops with businesses where I've kind of asked the question, what's your growth strategy? And, most businesses talk about Europe as being where they see growth coming from, or they talk about America. They default to America because that's always where things are going to go big, isn't it? But it's interesting as well. There's a lot of the old Commonwealth countries, and I've done this a few times where I said, "What about Australia? Have you thought about selling that?" Oh, it's a long way. Well, it's not a long way. It's a Zoom meeting away. And actually, when they start to look at their stats, they suddenly realise actually in the past year they've had good growth from selling to Australia. Australia and New Zealand have both got very low COVID cases. New Zealand's got none. And so maybe those are good markets. Maybe those are markets that will come out a little bit sooner than others. It depends on your product as to whether that's possible. But do just explore the positives and what the options might be. But Brexit itself, the other observation made by people is that we're really obsessed with getting goods in and supply chain, and get that. But goods coming in is kind of in our control. It's something we are going to do as a country. We're going to put those borders in. Where you need to be a little bit more worried is getting your goods out. Because actually, I hate to say it, but I don't think the Europeans are particularly disposed to bending over too far to help us in terms of getting the goods the other way. So be prepared and just model through what the disruption to supplies sales going the other way might be. And either get that off your desk onto a fulfillment business where they can worry about that and deal with it for you, or be prepared that you might just find it takes a little bit longer. So think about your supply chain, the whole piece, including the sales out. Think about the fact that there will be a prolonged negative economic impact. Is it built into the Forex and all that? I don't know. I can't answer that. And ask the economists and then see if they're right afterwards. But it does come back to the resilience bit. And again, managing your cash flows, your working capital, keeping on top of that, monitoring your customers, making sure you've got robust contracts with them and so forth. Good business is good business. And it kind of, the tariff bit is there, of course it's there, but actually your bigger impact will come from not managing the way that you're engaging with those markets. I don't know if that helps, but it's I haven't got the crystal ball, okay. But there is. But think about the selling goods out as well as the goods coming in.
Yeah. So one of the things that's close to my heart is data driven decision making. It's easy for you to say. It's only something that we're very hot on in legal services, and especially at the moment where we're allocating resources into departments that are seeing spikes. So things like residential conveyancing at the moment, where everybody wants to move house by Christmas. What in practice are you seeing inside manufacturing businesses? What does data decision?
Yeah, this is a fascinating. I love this topic as well. So sorry everyone, we might be here for a while. This is really interesting. So people have a kind of a perception of what they mean by that. So, it could be have a good dashboard in front of you of, balanced scorecard of your business and all the things you need. That's in there. That is part of it. So part of it is about the data on your business. But interestingly, there's been massive development in digital technology. The fact that I can get real-time information on sales, real-time information on my customers and suppliers. I've seen some great gadgets that we use with clients about giving me the trends and analysis on what my customers and suppliers are doing. So I'm not waiting for a problem. I'm getting predictive analytics that maybe that customer's starting to buy less from me. Maybe they're taking longer to pay me. Most of these come out of the box and plug straight into some of the cloud technology that's out there these days. So definitely there's data in terms of the running of the business. There's data in the terms of how your products and services are being used. So that's the Internet of Things side of things. There are grants out there for this kind of thing. So you do need to do the looking around, and by all means reach out to ourselves or whoever your usual contacts are to help you identify those grants. And R&D, still today, can't believe it, the number of businesses that forget that they're entitled to R&D tax credits and all that. So there's funding around this piece. That's the first good thing. But it's the use of that that kind of digital technology embedded into your products to actually mean that you're not sending those people out to do on-site maintenance, as I mentioned before. The fact that I'm able to proactively give suggestions to the customers about things that might not be being used as efficiently as they could be. The fact it might allow me to go into markets I couldn't go before because I was worried about old school methods of sending someone out to go and check something and maintain it. I mean, how many manufacturing businesses quote that we need to make sure we've got local maintenance teams available? And the others didn't get this, but we were talking, Neil, before this call started about virtual reality goggles. And it's actually quite a timely conversation for this, because the people that might be maintaining products out in the field, the old school method was, well, I need an army of maintenance people and specialists, and if I have product A and he's got guides to product B, he's not going to be able to do it. And the reality is that goes out the window, because basically with a pair of VR goggles, you can actually see the problem. Someone at head office can bring up the procedures manual for what's needed to repair it, and someone who's less equipped can be guided through what they need to do to maintain something at the end. All of those things are going to come into the forefront now. I mean, we're seeing that is definitely coming through in terms of on-site maintenance, field support, and so forth for products. And again, if you go back in history to the last recession, the big push in manufacturing was to move to not just thinking about making your products, but thinking about the ongoing support and maintenance. Well, now the technology is coming in to make it even easier for you to do that. So digital in that. And then dashboards, again, a lot of businesses just limit that to base financials. Actually, a lot don't do that. So make sure you do understand not just the profitability of your business, but thinking about the profitability of individual business units. Again, it was last recession, but I remember a business who the managing director was moaning. He said, if we've got one product, it's 50% of our sales and it makes 3% margin. All our other products, we make 40% margin on. Ridiculous. So he went into negotiations with the business that was 50% of his sales, and he hammered them on price, couldn't get a deal, so he walked away. He said, I'm not doing it for 3%. The business was insolvent and went under 2 years later. The reason being that he didn't understand the difference between profit and contribution, and he had absorbed all of his overheads of his business into the costs of the product. He looked at what his accountants had given him and made the wrong decision. So having the right information for the decision making is actually that data driven decisions. So not what comes out of the box, not the standard Sage reports that come out of the system, but the real information, productivity, efficiency, the quality, the profitability by SKU, by product line. That's what businesses need at the moment, and they know they can get more data, and they're demanding more data. So businesses need to have that and should keep pushing and not just rely on instinct.
Yeah.
As I said, we've loads on that in terms of content, but it's internal stuff and also in terms of the product itself.
Brilliant, thank you. One last question. So we were chatting previously. I think I'm in tier 1. You're in tier 3. We're going into lockdown was a hell of a lot easier than coming out, and now it feels a bit like in and out and up and down. How do you see the second? How do you see events unfolding at the minute, and how that's affecting manufacturing?
Yeah, so I talked about before, actually I didn't touch on it, resilience. There's another angle to resilience that is really important. Why does a business fail? Well, a business will fail, I think, first and foremost, because the person at the top is tired, and that's it. There's no point pushing on. So I've had enough. I'm just tired of all of this. This has been a long time. What was it, March? We went into lockdown. It was bumbling along pre-Christmas. And worse than that, businesses were so actually buoyant going into lockdown, and it just killed everything that was good. Decision makers have made so many decisions. They've been buffeted around. Decisions that impact people. Businesses have seen members of their team die from what is a very tragic situation. And I think we are tired, and we need to recognise that piece. So I think going into the second spike, I think that's the concern, that people need help and need support. So I would say, first and foremost, think about that resilience at the board level, and think about it in terms of having the people around you, the peers, the support, the advisors, the support group, to just be able to say how you're doing and how you're coping. So, and I think going into the second spike, I think because we're going in with a little bit of we're on empty, that's the worry, that people will make bad decisions or blasé decisions, or just decide, look, it's just hard, so we're just in this now, or whatever. No, we've got to keep going. We've got to keep on saying we can do this better, we can learn the lessons. So all those things I had on the right hand side on that slide about the things we could, businesses should be thinking about in terms of the realise, you've got to do it. And I'm sorry to say that some of those you won't realise, because this could be longer than we think, but you've got to be resilient yourself to keep going with that one. So I think it's the weariness is the toughness this time, and of course the support is not as strong. We've got a great timeline, again, it's out on social and we can share it around after this, of all the things that are going to happen in the next 6 months. It's not good. Okay, that's the worrying thing. It's we've got that deferrals, which are due for repayment in March. The government have said you can defer that over 12 months interest free if you apply for it. If you forget to, you're going to have to pay this back in March. That'll be the death of businesses. We've got things like HMRC's status moving back into being preferential. That's coming through soon through legislation. So actually they're going to go up the pecking order in terms of payouts and things like that. So keep that one in mind. Furlough money, yeah, right. Announcement, is it out now in terms of today? I haven't heard the news today, but Tier 2 is being enhanced. Things, it's just not where it was before. And that fact that the furlough is not as great, and the fact it is still finite, and the fact that business owners have said, I've learned productivity gains, I don't know if I even want to bother with it this time, I'm just going to get rid of the jobs. We all know there's a bound wave of more jobs going as a result of this. So I think there's a pretty horrible 6 months. That timeline's there, there's a load more stuff on it as well, including the B word. And I think if you just look at that, as business owners, you've got to be prepared, you've got to work your way through. And as I said, we're running a little bit empty, so it's tough. We're in for a tough time. And but keep saying it, a good business is a good business, but you need to make sure you've got people around you who are going to keep you going.
Brilliant.
Does that help?
I think so. No, it's fantastic. No, it's brilliant.
No magic wands.
So I know that the TMG members are certainly grateful for the support the BDO have provided over the sort of the last 2 or 3 years, and definitely the last 8 months. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you to everybody for tuning in, and I look forward to catching you on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.